faced. Levon, on the other hand, he's a little bit more dynamic these days. He likes to complicate. And both these players, one is very confident, the other one has quiet confidence.
Should we predict an entertaining game when these two are up against each other, David?
Definitely. I can't see this one being boring. Jeffrey won't want to shut this game down. He won't want to just, make it very quiet and go for a draw. And wow, we do see the Reti opening, so white doesn't even occupy the center with a pawn yet. We do see maybe a transposition potentially to a Queen's Gambit. And okay, it's actually a kind of reversed Queen's Gambit. Levon Aronian is the one offering the Gambit this time, so offering white the chance to capture a pawn. This last move's very rare as far as I know. It has forced Jeffrey to start thinking at an early stage, and look at this, it's a mutual Gambit there, both sides offering up pawns in the center, and Levon Aronian, he has chosen this rare line. Is he well prepared? That is the big question for me. Jeffrey, as Jovanka mentioned, he likes to have a really smooth transition from the opening to the middle game. He normally wants to pick up an advantage, just kind of grind that advantage out, transform it maybe later on. Here, he's already forced to think on just move 4.
Yeah, he has a choice. Is he going to support the pawn that's under attack? Is he going to push that D pawn 1 square forward? He can also play even more aggressively and actually pick up the pawn in front of the king and move it 2 squares. I mean, so much choice, and I guess he's going to take the decision, actually. It was a very stylistic decision right now, already on move 4.
First critical moment of the game, And maybe we can jump in. You mentioned a few moves there, Jovanka. So in the current position, white has just given up a pawn on this square. What should he play? And you mentioned 3-4 moves there?
So number 1, top choice, is actually a solid choice, just to pick up the pawn in front of the king, move it 1 square. And he's gone for a different option. He's instead pushed that pawn forward, which is a little bit more maximalistic, because white is saying, hey, I'm going to take the space I can. And that is why Levon Aronian's like, no, I'm not going to let that pawn live that easy life, and instead challenges it.
Yep, so challenging this pawn in the centre. And again, decision time for Jeffrey. He needs to defend this pawn in some way. He develops his knight to defend it. And now, after a capture, will he trade the queens? That's the big question. Do you take this pawn back with your queen, or do you take it back with the knight?
Well, the computer says you take it back with the queen and you go into an endgame.
Wow, and, queen's off the board potentially by move 6.
Wow.
I mean, that doesn't mean it's going to be boring, but it does mean that we will go into a very different type of position. One where maybe Levon Aronian will be frustrated that he won't have too many dynamic chances. That's what he wants. Then again, it's all about concrete factors right now. Can Jeffrey win his pawn back? Black still has this 1 extra pawn. And if he can win it back, will he have an advantage? I like white's pieces, though. Look at these knights. Really, really strong in the centre of the board. This one, threatening to jump in. That will be a knight fork. Winning material.
And I was... I got a bit excited there because I suddenly had a glitch.
What was
No, it was just my glitch.
About?
Well, I thought Levon had played a new move, but he hadn't. It was totally mainstream. OK.
So this was the big threat. If black, for example, had ignored it, then this is a knight fork. Devastating, winning the rook in the corner. So Levon played not a new move, developing his bishop to cover this square.
Yeah.
And I'm expecting now Jeffrey to play the most natural move in the position, push your king's pawn forward, try to win this pawn back, maybe try and push this pawn forward to destabilise, kick away the black bishop. Lots of choice.
Yep, that would be the maximalist approach, actually, to push the pawn forward. There is one other tiny move that Jeffrey can play, which is a bit more subtle, but it's just aiming to recapture the pawn, and that's just to retreat the knight to the square that David highlighted, and then planning to play knight takes pawn.
Yep, going for the pawn and maybe the bishop afterwards. Wow, I actually really like it for white. I'm surprised that Levon Aronian has gone into this willingly. He's played instantly every move, Levon. He's up to 15 minutes, 40 seconds. He's gained a lot of time on the clock already. Jeffrey thinking, but it looks great for white. How do you stop this plan? Knight takes pawn. I mean, even if the white knight is attacked in the centre of the board, you can just ignore that. Just play knight takes pawn, give away your knight in the centre, but you counterattack against the black bishop. And suddenly it's knights versus bishops in the centre, but white's knights are doing really, really well. I think this gives an advantage to white.
It looks very strange to me. I mean, we don't see this often, do we? On the analysis board, we do see both knights and 2 black bishops.
Yeah, it's
in the center, hardly any pawns.
Very rare, yeah. I mean, it's completely just knights against bishops right now. And I think the knights are winning. Also, it's so rare to see, after just 8 moves, only the queens have been traded off. Normally, knights disappear first or bishops. This time it's the queens.
Ah.
Absolutely. No, I'm also appreciative of the pattern there, Kaya. It is a very unusual situation that the knights are doing damages against the bishop, because we often say a pair of knights are not that great, but in that particular situation, it was good. And now the decision is in Jeffrey's hands. You know, is he going to try to expand in the centre, move the knight? It's a pleasant choice. I mean, I have to say, taking a look at the statistics, it's not a popular opening choice by Levon. I mean, he has to have some new idea cooked up somewhere, because the last time a top grandmaster played this opening was in 2007.
Huh, really?
Yeah. Yes. That long ago. And it was Grishuk against Ivanchuk.
And Jeffrey Chong at that time, how old was he?
Well, let's not go into that, Kaya.
He would have been 6 years old, I think.
6 years old, yeah. So the question is, has he seen that game? Maybe not.
Well, the question is, what is Aronian bringing to the table? Because, OK, he's developed his knight.
He's bringing to the table a bunch of bishop retreats as well. Black's bishop now has gone to the b8 square. It's not a great square, but it does keep control over the white knights. The white knights can't jump further forward. That's the key right now. And I mean, this opening, the reason it's so rare is it does have a dodgy reputation. But sometimes with the help of computers, we've discovered that actually old openings, long forgotten openings like this one, which hasn't been played for 15 years at the top level, sometimes they are viable. The computer might say, oh, it's only a tiny advantage for white anyway. So top grandmasters, they say, OK, it's fine. I'll survive, even if it's just plus 0.7 for white. It's not the biggest deal in the world. And Aronian, he thinks he's OK.
And he definitely is having Jeffrey think here. And in sort of the honor of Bobby Fischer, who was not all that big of a fan of openings, he invented 960 chess to get just out of opening prep. Is that a little bit of Levon's plan here, to surprise Jeffrey with something he's just... to get him into time trouble, basically?
Yeah,
definitely.
And talking about delving into the past and finding little explored ideas, this was actually Bobby Fischer's speciality. You know, he didn't have a team behind him. He just loved to look at chess books, the old history books, and just think about those ideas. You know, he revitalized so many openings because of his approach, and he was a real maverick. And Maybe, I'm sure Levon knows it's his 50th anniversary.
Yeah.
And this is perhaps, no, maybe it's too much. It might be some little tribute.
Well, maybe we will see the players today sort of take it out of opening prep in the games in honor of Bobby Fischer. That would be very cool.
Yeah, it's definitely a trend anyway, I think, to take things out of opening preparation. Maybe we'll see some cool games won with white's light squared bishop. That was Bobby Fischer's favourite piece. Maybe we'll see more Najdorfs today. Bobby Fischer's favourite opening as black. Maybe we'll see 1b3, which occasionally Bobby Fischer experimented with.
Really?
Lots of options. But in general, he always said 1e4 best by test. So that's what players should be playing with white. None of Jeffrey's one knight f3 stuff.
Well, e4 came there.
E4 came there, exactly.
That was good timing, David.
I'll pretend I planned that. Move 10, better late than never. And white now occupies the centre. White's knight still looking great, to be honest.
Yep. Absolutely.
And it's now down to Levon to try and neutralise those white knights. Maybe try to exchange off one of them over the next couple of moves.
Yes, absolutely. And what I really like about Bobby Fischer's best by test quote is that, he always opened up with his king's pawn. But the most important game of the match in game 6, he opened up with a queen's pawn. Was it? No, it wasn't the queen's pawn. It was transposed to a variation that you would find in the queen's pawn. And there he won such a superb game. This was the game that I was referring to, that Boris Spassky actually just, after they finished, just applauded him. Yeah, I mean, it's just incredible. Everyone was just like, did you see the way Bobby played? And, well...
Guess which game of the match that was?
Game 6?
Game 6.
Always
game
6, yeah. And we're going to dig deeper into that game tomorrow, actually. David, in Iceland, in a replica of the board they played on, is going to take us in detail through that game. But today, later in today's show, David's in Iceland going to take us through game won with, I think you said, the biggest blunder in World Chess Championship history.
Yeah, that's right. It's commonly known now as kind of what not to do in an endgame, what not to do with your bishops. Don't go and grab any poison pawns. But there's a lot to learn from that one moment. And someone as great as Bobby Fischer could make that kind of blunder, then anyone can. So a lot to learn from that one game. And I think that's what maybe added to the drama. Game 1 of the match, Bobby blundered horribly and lost. So
what a start to that, yeah.
Historic moment.
That's coming after Game 2 today. Straight after Game 2, we're going to dig into Game 1 in the 72 match.
Yeah, and this one is actually heating up, despite the fact that queens are off the board. Both sides now, they've castled on opposite flanks. Black has gone one way, white has gone the other way. And maybe that will open up one of the kings to attack. White's king does look a bit airy, doesn't have too many pawns around it to protect. So we will see, is White's king safe on this flank? Opposite side castling in a middle game with queens would be really, really dramatic here. Maybe slightly less so, but still ambitious from Jeffrey Chong. And
it still looks, you know, a little strange with the kings on opposite sides. I feel we need a rhyme for this. We have rhymes for so many things. I want a rhyme for opposite side castling because it's always dramatic.
Yeah.
Well, we're going to have to ask everyone on Twitter. These are our geniuses that we constantly refer to. I mean, do you guys, can you think of a rhyme to do with opposite castling? Tweet us using the hashtag #ChessChamps, and we will feature them. We'll definitely mention them on the show. And, OK, we do have a move. Levon has moved his rook to just enhance the support on the e7 knight.
Yeah, I think Black's one big problem here, and the reason the evaluation bar is so far in White's favour is because, for example, if White just improves his worst-placed piece, say this rook, I mean, maybe there are better moves, more active moves, but say he swings it to the centre, then how is Black ever going to deal with this bishop? The problem is this bishop has no safe squares. There's nowhere it can really jump to. The one move you don't want to play is bishop takes pawn here on h2. This would be very, very similar to something we'll see a bit later on. This is very similar to the blunder that Fischer made in game 1 of the match, exactly 50 years ago, taking a pawn. But after the pawn steps forward, the g-pawn, then this black bishop is trapped. It's in no man's land. White will simply go and pick it up later with his rook. This is actually the exact same blunder that Fischer made. Different position, but the same theme. So the one thing Levon Aronian shouldn't do is go and grab a pawn with his bishop. But if he can't do that, then his bishop is stuck, and therefore the rook in the corner is also stuck. And that is where Levon Aronian's problems lie, in those two pieces. He's never going to be able to develop them in the near future, at least. So Jeffrey, if I were him, I would just look for an improving move. OK, he doesn't want to just maintain the tension. I'm not such a fan of this knight exchange because after... I mean, you could take back with the black knight, but for example, if you take back with the black rook, this is a bit scary. It looks like you've abandoned the back rank, but at the moment, the black knight defends this square, so the white rook cannot zoom up to the top of the board to give a check. But the reason I'm not such a big fan for white is that now this bishop does have a safe square. It can move on the next go. Not a great square, maybe, but at least it gets off the back rank. And once this bishop moves, black can start untangling his pieces.
Yeah. You've been praising those knights, David. Why would Jeffrey get it off the board?
Yeah, it's the modern school of chess, Kaya. Younger players, they're very, very direct. I've noticed younger players, they don't want to keep the tension too much. And here, look at what Jeffrey's doing. He's actually sacrificing a pawn. He's hoping this pawn is captured, but in order to free up this light square bishop, he has had to push this pawn forward. Now the idea is to swing this bishop across and onto this diagonal. I talked about this rook in the corner being the problem piece, and actually it's a big, big target right now. So I think that's where the generations differ. An older, well, slightly older player like me in the previous position, I would just be thinking, oh, let's just improve a piece, get all my pieces into the battle first, and then look for action later. Young players, they're like, no, 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 action now, and you have the problem to solve. How do you stop my bishop coming to this diagonal? If you can solve it, then great, well done. If you can't, I'm going to win a quick game. So that's what Jeffrey is thinking. This is a big threat to move his bishop to this diagonal. I think Levon here has to just develop as quickly as possible, get these bishops into the game. He could start by maybe bringing his bishop forward and meeting this bishop move with another bishop move of his own. This still looks very scary, to be honest. White's knight jumping in, attacking this bishop. It looks very, very scary for Levon Aronian. This is what Jeffrey's planning.
Yeah, definitely. I mean, this position that you've got up on the analysis board, I would be terrified. I mean, there's so much pressure, and it's a very concrete play, actually, from Jeffrey. You know, he's saying, you know, there's something fundamentally wrong with this position that you have, and I'm going to prove it directly. And it's difficult, isn't it?
Yeah, it's very difficult.
I mean, anything that black plays, there's going to be some concession.
Yeah, I mean, you would love to, at some point, move your knight out the way, for example, developing your bishop, and then maybe moving your knight. But the problem is you can never do this. This would end up in checkmate, the back rank checkmate. So it's two problems, dual problems here. As Jovanka mentioned, in the current position, it's not just the fact that the king is potentially trapped, but also this diagonal very vulnerable. So I said it's the modern school of chess, going direct, trying to pose immediate problems to your opponent before they're ready. But maybe it's just very good chess. Maybe it's just very strong. This direct threat. I'm struggling to see an immediate way to parry this. I mentioned developing black's bishops. OK, he develops this one first. Maybe his idea after the white bishop moves. OK, the white bishop didn't move. But I was going to say maybe his idea is to somehow protect his back rank. Instead, if we go back, Jeffrey decides, OK, he's going to solidify this pawn chain, solidify in the center. And next move, this bishop is coming.
Yeah. And black still has the problem of that dark square bishop. It's not a great piece. I mean, it doesn't have any long diagonals to look at. And at the minute, it's just stuck there on the 8th row. So Levon will have to do some repair work there. And meanwhile, white, very nice position. You know, a lot of flexibility with the bishops. That light square bishop pointing to a fantastic diagonal. I'm also looking at the other dark square bishop can also move if it needs to.
Yeah, this bishop can come round, right, and start attacking this black rook.
Yeah, and of course, the knight can just hop in. I mean, so many good possibilities available to Jeffrey.
Yeah.
Wow.
We're spotting a lot of ideas for white, fewer ideas for black. So that's the situation right now. Let's go back to the players. Jeffrey, he spent a bit more time than Levon, but he has a very pleasant position. And Levon, he is spending his time now. This is what top players do, right? They realize their position is difficult, and then they invest the time. Yeah. And he does get his bishop finally off the back rank. So that rook in the corner can breathe. It can breathe once more.
Yep. And very tense position here. And, well, it's an exciting day, isn't it? I mean, it was absolutely fascinating yesterday and very thrilling to watch all those youngsters win.
Yeah.
But of course, you know, we really like it when everyone shares with us where they're watching the show from. And we do have a selfie from... Hang on a second. Abhishek, who says, oh, my computer. Another chess day at school, and this is what gets him going. Though at 5 years old, he is still learning the names of the chess pieces. So there's Abhishek and his child. And it's not just Abhishek sharing with us a selfie. Akhil is also sharing, saying, hopefully my boss doesn't watch the stream too. Well, then the boss should also send a selfie, and then, you know, even Stevens.
Yeah.
That'd be good.
Yeah, I mean... Well,
chess is good for the brain anyway.
Exactly. And you need a lunch break anyway, right?
Exactly.
So why don't you have like a 45-minute break while the games are going on, and then you can work a little bit in between.
Yeah. And, you know, we did ask for a rhyme to do with opposite side castling. I actually thought of one immediately after I tweeted. But, OK, Daniel, first of all, Daniel Dayro says, opposite side castling guarantees fighting and can be exciting.
Oh, I like it. Yeah, it's very good.
My opposite side casting, this was my one, guarantees singing and dancing.
Oh, I like that one too. Yeah.
I don't normally come up with rhymes. My brain is a bit slow.
You're always too good at that. David always has a lot of them as well.
David is the...
I'm still trying to work one out. It's taking me a little bit longer today. I will get one by the end of the show.
I thought maybe, is it easier if we say like kings on opposite sides?
Yeah. Kings on opposite sides.
Something rhyming with sides.
In for ride, king on the opposite side, in for ride.
Rides.
We have knights on the side.
Oh, that's true.
I cannot abide.
Yeah.
Yeah, we'll think of one.
Yeah.
We'll think of more, for sure. Yeah, my rhyming brain is not clicked yet. I'm just too focused on the moves.
Yeah. Well, this definitely is a strange game. Pieces just all over the place. What's going on?
Yeah, Jeffrey is so ambitious. And look at Jeffrey's face as well. So focused. He's calculating right now. He's jumped in with his knight. He's attacking black's light squared bishop. And the question is, for Levon Aronian, do you have to exchange off one of your bishops for this knight? I think white's knight is just too strong. You can't let it live anymore. You just have to take it off the board. And maybe just to show you what's about to happen over the next couple of moves, this knight, as mentioned, it's attacking this bishop. You cannot really run away anywhere safe with this bishop, so you just have to trade off the knight. White's rook will recapture, and white's rook is very strong, but at least everything it's kind of attacking right now is defended. And I think Levon Aronian, maybe he can consider trying to exchange off one set of rooks. I was wondering at first whether he could play knight takes pawn. This was a big question, but I think here, after a couple of exchanges, it looks like a skewer here, attacking both bishops at the same time. But I think white can just about survive by bringing his king forward. Black's rooks double up, hitting the two bishops, and now white moves one of the bishops, attacking this black rook. So this is what the players are calculating. It's like a 3-4 move variation, but black cannot sacrifice his knight profitably right now. So I'm assuming instead black would maybe just try and trade off a set of rooks, maybe jump in with his knight to attack some pawns. Ideally, black needs something now, because long-term white has the bishop pair, but the game does go on. Black is relatively solid for now, at least. Over the next couple of moves, he could also consider pushing this pawn forward, trying to break down the strong point of white's pawn chain. Yeah. So, yeah, lots of ideas for Levon Aronian. The clock has basically balanced itself up, or Levon Aronian only has a small time advantage now. But either way, he is the one facing the questions in the current position. He needs to eliminate this white knight, and then he needs to consider what to do next.
Yeah, and I have to say, I'm a bit puzzled as to why Levon is thinking so much. For me, it's a given. You've got to remove that knight. Yeah. It's too good. And yeah, there he is in with his thinking cap on. And I love, again, I love seeing how the players just get up close and personal with their computer. You have Levon kind of treating it almost like he's at a physical board. Yeah. Meanwhile, Jeffrey just looks all chill. I actually have never played against Jeffrey. I've never seen him in action. Yeah. Does he sit like this at the board?
Yes.
Yes, he does.
Yeah, I think I've played him 3 times over the board, and the first time I won very quickly as white. He just looked nice and chilled the whole time. He had a dead loss position, but he just looked really happy. And I was like, wait, I'm winning, right? And he was just like calmly making moves. The next time I played him actually was one of the most embarrassing moments of my career, because I arrived at the board, I sat down, I started writing on the score sheet, and then the arbiter came up to me. He's like, oh, you're on the wrong side of the table. And I'd prepared with the black pieces against a different opponent. It turns out I was white against Jeffrey, because in all tournaments, if you play the same opponent twice in a tournament, they actually switch the pairings at some point. Oh. So I hadn't checked who I was playing. I hadn't checked the colours. I just assumed I was playing the same guy I played in the first half. And I turned out to be playing Jeffrey, and I lost really quickly because I just wasn't prepared.
Oh, no.
I prepared with black all morning. I ended up playing with white, and I was like, how do the pieces move again?
No.
So, yeah, the second time I played Jeffrey was a disaster. I lost, and then the next time was a draw. But, yeah, he's very calm. He very rarely betrays emotion.
Uh-huh.
And we've seen him in interviews. He's really nice guy, really well-spoken, really calm. He's really realistic as well about his improvement. He will do all the things that are necessary in order to improve. I've got another funny Jeffrey story. Once I had to rebook a flight, long story, but I rebooked a flight, and I ended up somehow, it was really last minute, I ended up sitting on the seat next to him. Oh. Some random flights in the middle of nowhere. Out of all the flights, all the people in the world, I ended up sitting next to Jeffrey.
Really?
So, yeah.
And did you have a nice chat then on the plane?
Yep, that was just after I lost to him a while ago. So. But yeah, it was a nice chat. And actually, we were giving each other kind of blindfold problems to deal with, like study like endgames. And he knows a lot. He studies these types of things all the time.
Wow. Well, it's so much fun to get to know him a little bit better. It's his first time in the tour, and he is playing some impressive chess, definitely.
Yeah, chess is his life. It's yeah, it's well deserved that he's here.
Is his ambition to be, top player in the world, the world champion in the future?
I think so. Yeah. I mean, he was world junior champion at 15, wow. And that's under 20. So years in advance. He's 21 now, but I think he's finding it hard to maybe crack the world's elite. That's another level, the 2750 plus. type of player like Levon Aronian, but this could be a start. I mean, it's rare to get the opportunity to play so many of these top dogs in 1 week, kind of in one go.
Yeah.
So, I mean, it'll be a confidence boost for him.
And of course, as we talked about before as well, it's been 2 years of COVID, which has been devastating, especially for the young players. 2 years without playing over the board. You know, confidence has gone down for many of them. It's very exciting to follow them now as they get to play more again in competitions.
Yeah, definitely. And we're seeing the kind of the reward for the work they've done during COVID, during lockdown. And actually, we didn't see the move we expected, Jovanka. We saw a bit of a flashy sequence there. The Knights have left the board.
Yeah, I was surprised by the order of it. I had seen this idea of jumping in with the knight, but not at this particular time. And now we have, 4 rooks and 4 bishops on the board. And the only big difference is the pawn majorities. If you look, you know, white is, so they got 2 pawns on the left and 4 pawns on the right. And so it's all going to be about which side can, first of all, activate their pieces and at the same time utilize their passed pawns. And it's, once again, it looks like Jeffrey is making all the right moves.
Yeah, look at this. He's putting so much pressure on Black's position. He just gave a really nasty check. And Black's king has been forced towards the centre. And I think we have to jump in. Maybe we can keep an eye on the players because it's actually going to be a very dramatic moment right now. If we just backtrack slightly, this is the current position. If we backtrack to this moment where I was advocating taking the white knight off the board, Levon Aronian found a really flashy move. He jumped in with his knight, counter-attacking against the white bishop. This knight was removed, and Black removed the white knight now. So this is how the knights left the board. If white had taken this bishop, then Black's rook suddenly gets very, very active. And Jeffrey did not want to see this. And I think he made a wise decision. He retreated his bishop. Levon did the same. And now the problem for Black, and this is going to be a persisting problem, is that once his rook moves, if the rook had moved, then suddenly white jumps into the 7th rank. And we call this 7th heaven for a reason. It's because this is where all the targets are. The 2 bishops now lined up. White's also attacking this pawn, very important pawn, especially when the bishop jumps to the diagonal. And this would have been disastrous. Instead, Levon had to block with the pawn. And after a check, this is the current position. Black's king did not want to go to the corner, just in case, for example, after a pawn exchange, it would get trapped in the corner in a variation like this one. But yeah, it feels like even going towards the center, it's not going to find safety there. And the first thing Jeffrey should calculate, whether it's good or not, is the simple move. Pawn takes pawn, going for a capture, trying to win a pawn, attacking a black rook at the same time. It looks nice and beautiful. I guess you have to wonder what happens after this bishop now gets freed up, takes a pawn with a check, hitting the white king. Maybe the king just moves. And Levon Aronian, how is he going to deal with the problem with his rook? I don't really see it, Jovanka. This looks really, really terrible for Black, to be honest. After pawn takes pawn, White can just recapture with his bishop. No matter where the rook runs away to now, I mean, say it goes here, suddenly we see why the Black king is not safe anymore. Suddenly the white rook lines up. And yes, there's a couple of bishops in the way, but clear target.
Yeah, I mean, I hate Levon's position, actually. I think he's losing, and I think the bar also agrees with us.
Wow. Jeffrey,
this move
though,
I also quite like as well. Loved your line. Also was instinctively drawn to this one, which is just saying, you know, let's increase the tension. After all, Black can't really play pawn takes pawn on account of the pin from the bishop against the rook. Yep,
the rook would just drop off. This is a really nasty pin, actually, along this diagonal. And yes, a pawn was hanging. Levon says, give me that pawn. But Jeffrey says, OK, I'll happily give you that pawn because now I'm going to sidestep. No matter where you drop back your bishop now, say you drop it back to a safe square, suddenly pawn takes pawn is going to be deadly because look at this, a pawn recapture will end up in checkmate. Queens are off the board, but still Jeffrey Zhang, the youngster, is attacking and checkmating ideas on the board right now. Levon Aronian in big, big trouble. It looks like the youngster might be taking this game.
Yeah, totally. I mean, the line that you showed is just devastating. Checkmate on the board. And the worst thing is...
What else do you do?
What else to do? I mean, there's only one move that I can see here, and that is actually to centralise the bishop.
Centralise it to this square?
To this square, just with the hope that... OK, I forgot. Yeah. The golden rule, look for counterattacks.
Counterattacks. I think here, Jovanka, there would have been a really flashy move. Bishop takes pawn as well. would have been really nasty because, again, this checkmating idea on the board and the one trap there, we should mention, was pawn takes pawn would actually run into white, maybe getting checkmated because of the power of these two bishops. So bishops are so tricky. In the end, Levon Aronian, as you mentioned, did counterattack. This bishop was too strong on this diagonal, so he pushed a pawn forward, distracting it. And after bishop takes pawn, same problem for Levon Aronian, where to run away with this bishop. If he runs away back to the center, then maybe, okay, he has done so. Maybe Jeffrey's just going to, he has just retreated his bishop and put it back on the diagonal it came from. In the process, he's won a pawn.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, and you still reignite the threat of bishop takes pawn. I mean, it's just...
I mean, look at the crisscross effect of these bishops, and they're all pointing towards this black king. And whoa, Levon Aronian, when in trouble, he loves to muddy the waters. He's pushed a pawn forward. I mean, everything's hanging here. For example, black isn't even threatening anything. If white just takes a quiet time out, black is not threatening to win this bishop because, once again, checkmate, the same pattern again, the king trapped. And if white, however, gets greedy and doesn't wait, then suddenly, after pawn takes pawn, white is the one in big, big trouble along these two diagonals. Suddenly, the white king is the one perishing, simply. So both kings now under heavy fire. The evaluation bar says plus 3.5. That means a winning advantage. But what is the killer move? I don't see it right now. Maybe it is a waiting move. I just want to get this king to safety to stop this bishop coming and giving a check.
Yeah, I mean, a waiting move appeals to me. Also, just to
bring
maybe,
the rook across.
I was going to say introduce another player into the party, you know. Bring the rook across. I like that move a lot.
Yeah, I mean, for example, you could bring the rook across and suddenly white's rooks are lining up against the black king. If the position opens up, if black touches this pawn, or this bishop, then lines are just going to open up against the black king. Looks like the black king is in mortal danger right now. Okay, he just retreats his bishop, Jeffrey. He's going for a different angle, going for this angle towards the black king. You
Beautiful.
Like it,
I love it. No, I mean, it's so unexpected. I was just looking in terms of up and down. I did not look behind those backward moves with the bishop.
Switching
I mean,
focus.
just it's brilliant.
It's brilliant, and it should be winning no matter what black does now. Bishop takes pawn is a killer threat.
Wow.
Yeah.
Jeffrey Jong at 21. He beat Anish Giri yesterday.
And now he's going to beat Levon in only, well, it's going to be under 30 moves. I don't see a way that Levon can actually survive this for much longer.
It's too many threats. If you defend this pawn that's attacked by the white bishop, for example, by moving your bishop to a passive square, then white just simply plays pawn takes pawn, says, thank you very much, I'm attacking your rook. When the rook moves, I'll take another pawn. You could take it with your rook as well, but 2 pawns, it's going to be an easy, easy win here for Jeffrey. And you can tell on Levon's body language, he looks devastated. Yeah. It's going to be a win for white this game.
Mm-hmm. And
Wow.
crushing, absolutely crushing. There's nothing to do.
Yeah, I mean, I don't see a move here, simply.
Well, the youngsters played fantastic yesterday, and they are keeping it going today. It's looking great for Jeffrey. Hans Niemann, the youngest American in the tournament, has gotten 3 points against Lenia Dominguez. Jan-Christoph Duda won his game against Wei Yi, and Anish Giri, not one of the youngsters, but he's younger than Timur Radjabov. And Giri starting the day with 3 very important points. The nightmare continues for Timur Radjabov. And, well, Levon Aronian, he did get some points yesterday, but it wasn't a good day. And it continues today, looks like.
Yeah.
About to lose against the 21-year-old.
I mean, yesterday, to be honest, it looked like he was a little bit jinxed. You know, he mentioned it himself that, you know, he had taken a pause from this online chess. And, well, things are not going his way right now. And just, he's about to lose an exchange, at the very least.
Yeah, white's bishop can win one of the black rooks. You can take it now, and it looks very healthy. Looks like a big material advantage for white. Maybe he'll be looking for something else here, Jeffrey. Maybe there are some threats against the white king that he has to be wary of. But either way, if he's accurate here, then it should be winning. For example, I was about to say he could play pawn takes pawn. This black rook that is attacked now is actually pinned. It cannot move. And this is just going to win a whole bunch of material for white. The evaluation bar says it. It confirms what we're thinking. Black is going down. Black at the very best is just going to survive with a bishop for a rook, and that's just terminal anyway.
Yeah. I realised I just used the word exchange. That's very chess speak there. Yeah. It just means a minor piece for a rook.
Yep. Winning the exchange.
Yep.
Exchange sacrifices are a big theme in chess as well. But this is no sacrifice. This is losing the exchange. And that's not great.
Yep.
So, yeah, bishop for rook advantage will be decisive here for Jeffrey. And, yeah, poor Levon. He just struggling to find his form. But it's not even the fact that Levon's played badly. This game, maybe it was just a poor opening choice and he never recovered. But Jeffrey's just been inspired in this game.
Yeah.
I can't fault any single move from Jeffrey at all. I can barely fault any single one move from Levon Aronian. It's no blunder in this game, just really smooth performance.
Yeah, I agree with you. It just seems to be a bad opening from Levon. And I have to say, when this move first appeared on the games, on the boards, I was like, oh my goodness me, this is not in my database. I need to find out what I need to do. And Jeffrey has just shown us. Yeah. This is how you play with the white pieces if your opponent reacts with such an aggressive opening choice.
Yeah, I think another lesson, don't play this opening as black.
Yeah, you warned already when we saw it, right?
Yeah, I mean, I just knew it had a bad reputation. I didn't know why, actually, specifically. We've learnt why today, why white has such an easy game. The queens came off early. That doesn't suit Levon Aronian's style. He doesn't want to be playing an endgame. And OK, there we go. White has parted with a bishop, but won a rook in return. And the black king still finds no solace. He's going to continue getting checked right now. Another check. The black king is marching. And this game, it might well just end in checkmate. I think we're about to see a result. OK, Levon Aronian, he hasn't resigned yet. He's still running with his king. He's dancing around, trying to find safety. But what a finish now from Jeffrey Zhang. Rook takes pawn. And please show us the checkmate, Levon Aronian. I don't think he's going to show it.
He's not going to do it. He's going to resign.
He resigns instead. But what a win by Jeffrey Zhang.
What a win by Jeffrey Zhang, Levon Aronian.